Is having a stiff upper lip outdated? Well, with this, it comes in swings and roundabouts. It allows you to confine yourself to yourself and hide pain if you choose to do so. So people who you don't trust, people who you don't particularly like, or you don't want certain people to know what's going on, then I think it can be a good thing. But I do think it is important to show or have moments of vulnerability with your family, because it just goes to show that you can be upset when your pet dies, or you can be in tears when your mum has lost her dad. Things like that I think is important, because we all learn behaviours off our parents, off our caregivers, and if they weren't emotional, if they had a stiff upper lip, then you can actually copy that behaviour and actually adapt it to your own life. And like anybody else, we all have fears, doubts, worries. And I think, see, the thing is, as a woman, we are encouraged to talk about it. Not that I have. And with boys and men, they just don't talk about certain stuff. And it's kind of a breakdown in communication, which we actually want to prevent suicides and self-harming and things like that. Of course, I have talked about my husband when his friend committed suicide, and it was just, I don't know how I couldn't go there with him. And I was all, and if you ask me, I'm all for talking about things, but I just felt that was too painful to even go there. And he did deteriorate because he didn't talk. He honest to God didn't talk, and I witnessed it firsthand, because he's a guy, he wants to keep it to himself, and I was so worried about his health, the fact that he wasn't eating. So I think it's not good always to have a stiff upper lip. I do know that people who like to have it, I think they struggle to be vulnerable with the people that they care about. I mean, it's like, as Piers Morgan goes, oh, you fell over in foot practice, get up, play through it, don't be a wimp, things like that. And I know it goes on, you know, or it is in one sense toughening them up, that you don't necessarily heavily cry because you've smacked your arm off the floor. Or if it was actually broken, then they'd be like, oh well, you know, and that would be a different story. But I do think it's important to talk. I do think it is important to get people to talk. I mean, I have no problem with men if they choose to have a stiff upper lip, if they want to be macho, if they want to be all these things, because that's who they are. If that is who they actually are, then that's okay. But the thing is, and I watched, now I can't for the life of me think of his name, or he did an interview with Renee Brown, and he did everything that he felt he should be as a man, and he was unhappy because that wasn't who he was. Now see, the thing is, with peers and like-minded people like peers, they are competitive, they are stoic, and these are things in various ways, things to be admired. That's fine. Or see, where I'm going with this is, we are constantly bringing up innovations of boys and girls, especially boys, who raise them into being a man. And I think how you are raised plays an important part in it. If your family weren't interested in your thoughts, if they pacified things, then you might not want to confide. Or there is a, how can I put this, being competitive, being stoic, being a leader, and all these things. I think especially young boys coming into adulthood, they feel the pressure is on to be a man, and if they don't match up to the criteria of being competitive, of being stoic and all this business, I don't think they ought to. I think people should be who they actually are. But see, society, it hates what a man should be. And if they aren't these things, then they are going to be like, well, what is wrong with me? Why can't I be like this? Why can't I be? And see, the thing is, I'm not sure how much this applies to everybody, but in my experience, I always wanted to make my mom proud of me. As a classic example that I could just think of, Ben Mitchell with his dad. Now his dad is Butch, he's a leader, he's all these things, but Ben isn't. And Phil has a tough time of trying to connect to Ben, that when Ben was younger, he was never interested in wrestling, football. He was more interested in listening to musicals and being a ballerina. You know, and I think as Phil Mitchell, he's that as not being a man. So he has a problem with Ben. It was all a mixture of those things, and then comes Kay. And he's into football, and he's into wrestling, he's into all these things, but Ben is not. So what should Ben do? He obviously wants to make his dad proud. I mean, it's, Phil wanted Ben to be tough, he wanted Ben to be this, he wanted Ben to be that, but he wasn't any of those things at all. And this is my point. What if, as a boy, these things aren't matched or seen back in your son? And as a son, as a son, you'd want your dad to be proud of you. So therefore, I do feel that there are expectations of how to be a man. But and this is it. If he doesn't match up to these qualities, he feels insecure, he feels unloved, even he feels that his dad favours Kay over him, when it weren't the case at all. It was just the fact that his dad had more in common with Kay. For example, my husband, when I was first dating him and I was bringing him home, at first he'd say, I'm not interested in football, and all your dad does is talk about it. Now, don't get me wrong, he's come a long way, and he's had to live in a scrapyard with lots of men too, and I think he's amazing, but he hasn't always felt that he's fitted in well with men. And I think it comes from an insecurity of having to be all these things. Like, even me as a woman, it's to take care of the house, the ironing, the washing, and when I have kids, the kids. It's, there's always pressures to be what society dictates us to actually be. And guess what? If we aren't matching up to these things, it is going to activate insecurities. Things like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I can't cope, when I first moved into this house, of course I'd have to go to work, I'd have to go home, I'd have to do the ironing, I'd do the washing, I'd do this, that and that, and I'd have moments where I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, I am not up to this. But I never I never spoke about it with my mom because I just felt by doing that I wasn't up to it, and I don't know what it is. It was the last thing people want to be seen of as a failure, and that's how I saw it. That if I admit that I can't do X, Y, and Z, that my mom would go, well, you should be doing this. I mean, even when I first moved in, my mom would constantly be telling me, you should do this, you need to keep on top of this, you need to keep on top of that. Remember, when this is doing, that needs doing. And it's a lot of information, and I never asked her for help once. Now, most women would think that is odd because mothers have all this life experience, and they sometimes just want to impart their wisdom. But I don't know what it is. I think I do have a very stiff upper lip. Even with personal stuff, I know I have it. But I have my moments where I do get emotional and I do get upset. I usually get upset in front of my husband because I feel safe with him. Occasionally I've done it in front of my mom and my sister-in-law at least twice. But see, the thing is though, and this is why I also study Brené Brown, is it takes, being brave is speaking from your own truth. Being brave doesn't allow you to be small. You want to be heard, you have to get your voice out there. And I know a lot of people on the internet who coaches and things like that, they will always tell you to speak out and do this and do that, and I do find them helpful, but the point I'm making is that we should be allowed to talk about things that are worrying us. And do you know what it is? It's a fear of judgment. It, honest to God, is a fear of judgment. I'd be more inclined to tell people things like my mom and things like that if I didn't feel judged. And this might sound terrible, but my insecurity is that I'm not good enough. But the stupid thing is, I know I am good enough, but if my mom doesn't think that activates that insecurity, that I think she thinks I'm not good enough. So it's not about me not feeling good enough, it's how she thinks. And I think at the end of the day, what you'd love to hear off your parents is that they are proud of you, proud of the person you've actually become. So I think having a stiff upper lip all the time it would actually be emotionally exhausting, because I think it's a mask that you put on. It's a mask you put on to hide pain, to hide feelings of insecurity and things like that. But we should talk. But do you know who we ought to talk to? People who have empathy for our situations. So maybe you don't talk to your dad, maybe you talk to an uncle, maybe you talk to somebody else. But as I remember off Brene Brown, shame cannot survive if you speak your truth and it gets matched with empathy of the right person. We can't be vulnerable with people who tell us off for having flaws or whatever else. We need to be, or we at least have to have, a couple of people in our lives who are non-judgmental and who we can actually talk to. Like men and women. I think it's really important, because the last thing we need are suicides and people who harm themselves. I think we should encourage it,